I am Tony from Just Beachy Studios, and I am so excited to be a part of Conquering Your Fabric Scraps Summit 2024. I've done this line like 3,000 times, so hopefully I'm not going to foobarb and make sure the sound's on. This is like literally, I've done this so many times. The last one I did, I forgot to turn the mic on. So if that gives you any indication of how I roll, you're in for a bumpy ride. No, we're going to have fun. We're have fun. So my name again is Tony from Just Beachy Studios. I have been teaching over 17 years, actually probably a little bit longer. And over the last couple of years, I've learned to go virtual teaching with the thanks of COVID. So I have taught in the classroom and I have taught virtually as well. And I continue to do that. So I teach locally at our local store here in Palm Coast, Florida, cut up and sew. And then I also teach hybrid classes virtually online in my own classroom. And when I say hybrid, what that means is there's a lot of little videos to kind of walk you through each step of my class. And then I have hybrid part where we do live Zoom where we're all in the class together, you and all the other students, and asking questions and getting help as you need. So that's my hybrid virtual classes. You can check them out on my justbeachystudio.com website. So a couple of things to remember what we're going to be doing today or in this class. I guess I don't know what day of the week it is for you. We are going to be making a Margarita Mosaic. So if you read or watched my intro video, one of the questions we had to answer was, what is the smallest scrap size? And I said, tiny. And this is what I mean. They're tiny. So those are like, some of those are 1/4 inch square. Tiny. So there's no such thing as a wasted scrap in my book. So we're going to be using small scraps. We're actually going to work with a 3-inch square, but we'll bring it down a little bit. So keep in mind that you need to go to my class page and you need to download the template and the supply list and gather all that stuff together, and then we'll jump into the class. Don't forget, I also have a class bonus. So I have a class bonus that includes a full digital pattern of the mosaic, as the Margarita Mosaic. And then I also have a couple other patterns, other templates that you can use to make more mosaics. And I've also included a couple extra blocks. So I'll talk about that towards the end, exactly how to use this, because when you look at it, it's just another mug rug. We have lots of those. But there's other ways you can use this, not just for a mug rug. And I just like it anyway as a small wall hanging. It's going in my quilting studio. So just where to go with this. You're going to learn more. Just remember, if you want to sign up, get the free bonuses, you're going to click the link that you see scrolling at the bottom here. Not click it. You're going to actually have to type it in, write it down, get out that pen and paper because you're going to be taking notes as you're going through this class as you learn how I am going to teach you how to do a mosaic style quilt. So again, print out your template, print out your supply list, go ahead and grab all that stuff. So hit pause and come back and we'll jump right in to cutting and prepping for our project. So let's talk about the tools that we are going to need and use for this particular project. Very simple and basic. Remember, we're working with scraps, so we'll talk about fabric next, but let's talk about just the tools. So I have a sorting container. You think of it as like this is an ice cube tray. It can be an egg carton. It can be a bead sorting tray. Just something, as you can see, I've got tiny little pieces in there that we can keep it organized while we're working on it. I do encourage you getting a nice fine set of serrated edged scissors that'll make it nice and less it's not going to let the fabric fray as you're using it. A fine set of tweezers. I'm going to use my smaller rotary cutter. Can you use a bigger one? Sure you can. You can use your 45, but I know with the smaller one it's a little easier to see around your ruler. So I am using one of these creative grid rulers, and you can see it has the 8 line marked on it, and that's going to be important because we're going to cut these at 3/8. Make sure you have a printed out copy of your pattern so we can use that to help us along. We're going to need a piece of tulle that's 7x9, and then we're going to need a piece of seam esteem that's also 7x9. So those are your tools. Let me reset up the table here, and I'm going to show you what you need for fabric. So now we're going to gather our fabric. This is where this project becomes really nice to use your scraps with. You only need 3 inches. And to be honest, if you have smaller pieces that you can just chop up and use, you can do that too, because the goal is we're going to make these smaller pieces. So as you can see, looking at our margarita glass here that I've kind of done a template for, You need a dark blue for the outside of the glass. And then we need a medium blue because it's going to go right here, kind of giving a dimensional effect. And then we need a light blue that goes up there at the top, which is the other side of the glass. So you need, I just said 3-inch squares, but if you have a 2 by 3-inch piece, that would work. You don't need a lot to do this. You need it. That was just a good size for you to kind of think through your scraps and pull them out. The next thing is we've got our margarita color and our lime. And so the margarita is the light green. And then we have two colors for our lime. We've got a dark green and a medium green. And then the rest is just all this background, which is a red and orange palette. So you can do this or whatever. I need a yellow. I guess I better pull a yellow too. You can do, again, whatever you want for the background. Now, you also need a foundation piece of fabric to put all the mosaic on. So think of this as your grout, your caulking that's in between your mosaic titles that you want to see. Now, you can use a darker color, but I encourage you the first time you do this, use the white because it'll be easier for you to see your pattern through. I'll talk about some other tips and tricks when we get through to the pattern making part. And then this is my fabric that I'm going to use for my border and then for my binding. So I am going to bind this, but I'm going to talk about different ways of binding and finishing this up as well, not just doing it as a small mug rug. So other things to keep in mind when you're looking at your fabric and you're just like, well, I just don't have enough blue or I don't have enough red or yellow. Well, so I am using batiks because they fray less. I like batiks a lot because of that factor, especially because we will have raw edges in this finished project. It's nice to have that where they don't fray as much. And again, using your serrated scissors to cut them, well, you don't cut them now, but you will need it when we start making small curves on things. This is a really cool batik. It's got multi-colors in it. This one batik I can use and make one margarita glass because it has a light green, it has a yellow, it has the dark pink, it has a blue, it has another funky green. So look at your fabric a little differently and see if you can use more than one color out of it. It doesn't have to be like my representation here. So just something to keep in mind as you start pulling your fabrics together. All right, so now we've got our fabric, we've got our tools. Let's get to our first lesson on how to prepare this. So our next step is preparing our fabric as a mosaic tile. So what you see here, I am using my creative grid and I am left-handed, so just keep that in mind. I can show you right-handed as well, but I'm going to show you left-handed because it's more comfortable for me. And I'm cutting 3/8, 3/8, so it's a little bit more than a quarter, less than a half an inch. And I'm just going to make these little strips. Make sure you have a fresh blade in there. Makes it a lot easier to cut these small strips. And don't worry about being so accurate. What you're going to find out as you start placing these down is you're going to have to trim them or make them fit a little differently. So don't stress about accuracy. That's the really cool thing about this project. It's kind of an art form, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So I've cut them one direction. Now I'm just going to line them up on top of each other. Keep it simple. Like I said, don't have to worry about accuracy. We just want to cut a bunch of little confetti. So we are basically making a confetti process instead of mosaic. So we're just going to go and just trim and cut your 3/8 inch of a square. They are teeny tiny. That's why I said you can use any size of scrap, so you can see how small they are. And then again, pull out your tray and start organizing your colors so it's easier for when you get to the point where we're going to be laying them on the fabric. So that's your next step. Go ahead and cut all your fabrics in 3/8 inch square and put them in your organizing tray. And then I will come back and do the next step. Now our next step is to prepare our background fabric. So we have 7x9 background fabric, and then we have a 7x9 seam steam piece of fabric. You can use light seam steam or heavy, it doesn't matter. The key with using this fusible is it has two papers, and that's going to be important for this project. So the first thing we're going to do is gently pull off one side of the paper, making sure that tacky glue side stays on the other paper. I'm just going to peel it off. Then I'm going to lay it right down. Now we are not going to iron it yet. We do not want to iron this part yet because if we do, we'll have to we're likely to burn the fusible, and it just won't be as sticky. We really want the sticky component as we start laying down our tiles. So once you play that now, then you're going to peel off the other piece, and it's very sticky. So hold on to this piece because we will iron it eventually. And you notice I picked the paper that has the lines on it. All seam steam all seam steam product has lines on it for you for easy cutting. But I'd also want it let you know that's the right side you can iron on, because if you iron on this side, you're most likely going to get glue on your iron. So we've got that prepared. I'm going to push that off to the side for a second. You see I'm using a mat. Originally, I thought using a foam board would be easier. It really doesn't matter. What I would do now is we're going to tape this to my mat, just using Scotch tape. Let me find some Scotch tape, and I will put that on. But then we're going to lay this over it. Let me take off this paper again so you can see what's going to happen. And this is where I was telling you that you can have a black or dark background, but you want to be able to see the outline of our pattern. So if you can't see the outline of your pattern, then you know that defeats the purpose. So if you wanted to, you could mark your darker fabric with a white marker and then put your sticky side on. But try it out a couple different ways, but this is the easiest way for you to learn the process. And then, you know, it's like doing the chocolate chip cookie recipe. Well, the first time he's like, it's okay, I'm going to add more chips or more nuts or something. So just remember, try it once this way, and then if you want to be adventurous, you can try it with a dark background. So now we've got it set. I'm going to go ahead and put some tape. The other way you can do this is on a wool mat, where you can pin this directly into your wool mat, which is really nice. But if you don't have a wool mat, foam board will work as well. Again, you can just pin it on all 4 corners so it doesn't shift and move on you. I'm going to just tape it to this, and then we're going to just start laying our tiles down. I'm so excited. Are you excited? I hope you're excited. All right, let's come back and I will show you how we're going to get started with laying our tiles down. So the first space I would suggest starting in is actually the outline of our glass. And once that's all filled out, then it's easier to put things in place. So I'm going to start with this dark blue. My fabric is different in my ice cube tray than on my original sample. Let me see if I can find some dark blue. I use tweezers as much as I can. So here's the other thing. As we start working with these fabrics, you can see some of them might be too big for that line that I have created on our pattern. So what we're going to do is just hold them and take those pair of scissors and start trimming them. You can make them shorter or whatever works for you. However, don't overthink this. That's the big thing. Remember, we're here to have fun. And I like these tweezers because I can use the back side of them too. So, and even if that's like, oh, that's too long. That 3/8 is too long. I'm going to go with I guess that's about 1/8 of an inch right there. You can pick it up, put it right there, and give yourself, don't overlap your fabrics, because again, we want it to look like it's a mosaic, like tiled. So this takes a little bit of time. It can be tedious, but you know, just take your time. If you have to use your fingers, you can use your fingers. You don't have to use tweezers. Tweezers is just what I recommended, because I think it's easier to get your pieces, you know, in different places. So I am going to go continue, and I'm just going to do all the outside of the glass. So I'm going to speed it up though, because I don't think you want to sit here for the next 30-40 minutes as I do this. So all right, let me speed this up for you. So you see that I have finished the outline of my glass. There is a little line that goes across. Now, also when you first look at this, I want you to really think about this. This is a mosaic tile. And if you look at true mosaic tiles, all the tiles are actually a little different. They're like broken shards of tile. So keep that in mind. As you can see, this looks a little bit, it's not symmetrical. That's probably the best way to say. So I chopped and made things different shapes and different sizes, just to kind of give that depth for the tile appearance. So the next section I'm going to do is this little section in between, which is going to be a medium blue. So you can, you're looking through both layers of glass is basically what I was interpreting that space. And then over here is going to be where you will do the glass, where you're looking through the glass. So I'm going to go ahead and do that part next, and we'll do that in fast motion as well. And then so far it's taken me about 15-20 minutes to do this little space. So don't beat yourself up. This is a good time for you to go stretch and get a break and then come back and do the next section. This isn't something you can do in one day, but it's not something you can do really, really fast because you're cutting and trimming and making things fit. So, all right, let's get that next section on. Okay, we have done our little dark glass. Now we're going to do our light blue glass up here. And I'm going to see what I've got left. I have to probably cut some more before I do that. But we'll go ahead and do this light part. And I'm just going to go step by step, by color by color. So I'm going to fill up my glass first. I'm going to do the light, and then I'm doing the margarita. Then I'll do the lime, and then I'll do the background. So I'm just going to stop talking, and we're going to see how this goes in fast speed. But again, give yourself time. And as you notice that, I don't know if you could tell when I do it fast, sometimes not everything shows up. Had a hole here and I didn't like it. So I went back to the first color and chopped up like a triangle piece to fill up that hole. You do want it to be gappy though. Again, we're creating grout, we're creating caulking, whatever the word you want to use, that to make it look like a tile. So I am going to go ahead and just do fast play on the rest of the process of laying out our tiles, and then I'll tell you how we're going to finish it up. So now, oh, I forgot this piece right here. Do you see that? I was so excited I got everything done. So let me fill in this piece, and I'm going to use this medium blue. Actually, it's a darker blue on my particular margarita. So I'm going to use these fabrics and put them down here in the stem. I can believe I forgot that. And then what we're going to do for the background is I'm just going to I cut up a bunch of the reds and the orange and some yellows. I'm just going to toss them. So when I put them on the background, if you look at this one, I kind of used, kind of going around the shape of the margarita glass. And that's what I'm going to do again. And you notice these ones I did not need to cut down. I wanted to be done. We're at a point where this was tedious a little bit, trimming in, making sure it looks right and lays right and it's curved. But here we don't need to worry about that. Big old pieces, we'll just work it out. Again, keeping that mosaic feel in our project. So let me go back to the speed camera, finish filling in this part, and then start filling in the background. All right, so I've got most of the background filled in, and we're going to trim this down. We're going to trim it down to 6 by 8. So I'm going to grab my ruler. This ruler is 8.5 by 12.5, and I know from here to here is 8.5 inches. So I'm going to kind of just put it down and get an idea how much more I might need to put in this. So it's wide enough because I'm going to cut it 6 by 8, so it's wide enough. But I think I need a little bit more filler up on this area and a little bit more on the bottom. So that's what I'm going to do, and fill in the little bit of top and the little bit of bottom, and then we will wrap this up. All right, right, we are in the home stretch now. So let's go ahead and get this ironed. What you're going to do is pull off gently your tape so it doesn't take the fabric. And you can pull this out of the way for right now. We're going to grab the seam of steam with the lines on it. That's facing up, and the lines, the other side is going to be facing down. So we're going to iron it like this. And actually, what I probably would do is trim this now, then go iron it. So keep it simple and doing things all in one shot. So I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to cut it 6 by 8. So just center it. I'm going to start with my 6-inch because that way I know I can capture all the tiles that I wanted to capture. Oops. Guess I should have ironed it first, but that's all right. One thing I've learned, we go with the flow. So we're going to line that back up. Got 6 inches. Now I'm going to cut the 8 inches. If paper stays, nope, the paper's not going to stay. So what I'm going to do, because it's being a pain in the butt, is I'm going to go over to the iron really quick and just press this paper on. Then I'll come back and cut the height of it by 8 inches. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and so I have ironed this piece down. What I actually did is I went over my ironing board and ironed the fabric, the background fabric. That way I know the tiles will stick to it, and so when I pull off the paper, it's going to be already fixed. So let me go ahead and trim off those other two sides. So we have six by 8 inches. So I am going to bring it down a little bit. Trim. Rotate. Do you guys talk to yourself when you're cutting or by yourself? I tend to do that quite a bit. And they say you can't answer yourself because then you're crazy, but we know better. We know better. All right, so now trim this down. Carefully pull the paper off. If I can get it. Carefully pull the paper off. And kind of roll it so that way it doesn't pull off any of the fabric. So when I look at this now, there's a couple extra spots. I'm going to go ahead and fill in with some fabric. And then what we're going to do is get our tool and make sure it's cut the same size. So you want to cut this at 6.5 by 8 inches as well. And then we're going to sew our borders in. So we're going to lay this down and then sew our borders on. Let me go get this finished up with a couple extra pieces. And then I will show you how to do the borders and sew this in. Okay, now we're at the finishing stage. We want to go ahead and get this done. And there's lots of things you can do with this. So we have this simple little mug rug. That's the whole intention of this mini class. But the other thing is you can always build into it. So you can always add pieces to it and make it a block inside a quilt as well. Or you can make a big wall hanging from it. So if you opt in, you get the color pattern of this whole process for free. And it also will have a bonus pattern on what else you can do. So we're going to keep this simple because we want to finish. So we're going to add a little border, and then we're going to do just a simple flip and turn, no binding, but you can do a binding if you want to. But again, keeping it simple. Let's get finished so we can try this again on a a different project. So I am going to use Wonder Clips. So we have our tool laying on top. If you want to baste it down, you can. I just think that's an extra step. As long as you're using the Wonder Clips to hold all 3 layers together. We're going to cut 2 pieces at 6 inches. We're going to put those on first, get those stitched in. And when you're sewing, you're going to make sure you're capturing that tool in there. And the whole purpose of the tool is obviously to keep all the pieces in. And if you're going to do this in a quilt, then you might want to quilt around some of this and do some stippling. But again, if it's just for a rug mug, there's no reason to go that extra step. So I'm going to stick these on. I'm going to go over to my sewing machine real quick, sew them on, then I'll show you how to put these on, and then show you the rest of the way to finish this up. Let's get the left and the right side borders on as well. Couple things, though, I did forget to mention, it is all on the pattern that I have designed for this project. You will see that it does include binder clips. I don't think I showed that in the video. And also make sure you're using a pressing sheet. Don't take this piece right now to the ironing board and press that. I actually finger pressed it because it lays pretty press because I'm using batiks. But if you're using regular fabric, you can take it to the ironing board, but make sure you're using a pressing sheet or parchment paper and turn your iron down, because you will melt the tool and you don't want that melting on your project. So we're going to line it up. So these two pieces are 9 inches. We're going to line them up and stitch them down the sides, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to stitch and flip. So we're back, we're finished, we got all the borders on, so now it's just finishing up. So again, you can use this in a quilt. You're just going to have to quilt over this so these pieces don't shift and move. If you're doing a wall quilt, you don't have to worry about it at all. Like I said, in my opt-in, you also will receive a couple extra blocks that you can do using this technique, and a couple other outlines that you can use. So the best part is you can make your own mosaic pulling up any coloring page from the internet because they're free. Just type in the word coloring page and whatever you want to do. Say you want to do an elephant, a beach ball or something different. You totally can do that on your own. But again, in my opt-in, I'm going to give you a couple choices in there. The other thing you can do is you can do a binding on this if you want. What I'm going to do, just so we can get this done, is I'm just going to take a piece of backing fabric, which is cut at 7x9, lay it down on top of it, and leaving a 2-inch opening, sew all the way around and turn it inside out. You could add batting into this if you want as well. If you do so, make sure you put your batting on top of your backing, and then just make sure your backing is right sides facing the right sides, and then we turn it around. Make sure you're clipping your corners. So I'm going to do that so we can see a final project. And a couple other things I realized as I am going through this process doing the video, because I'm not going to redo the videos, that I did cut this at 1 inch. So if you wanted it bigger, you could cut it bigger to make it, whatever size you want. And another cool idea that this would be great for, especially if you're doing one of those special quilts or projects that might have drinking games in it, or you're a margarita fan, is using this as part of a label and adding another piece on here with the signature, the name of the quilt, and the date and the time. So lots of ideas that you can do. Again, if you sign in for my opt-in, or just go to the special opt-in that I've created just for the Conquer Your Fabric Scrap Summit for 2024, you'll receive extra bonus patterns and ideas on how to use this in different ways. So let me go finish this up so I can have you to see the finished project. We're done. Yay, I'm done. Hopefully you're getting close to being done. Hopefully you feel that you can finish it up pretty easily. Easily? That's the word, right? So as you can see, as I finished it, I'm going to try to bring the camera up. You can see there's a little 1/8 of an inch, a seam allowance that I went around the edges of it to close up that opening and just lay it flat. So something super simple, quick and easy. I'm going to use it in my quilting studio, hang it on my wall. But again, a great thing to use as a label. Add it to a label of a quilt. Great thing to use for in quilt blocks. You can even put it on a table runner. How many of you have bars, if that's a thing? And if the margarita glass is not your thing, if you downloaded the bonuses, again, the link's right here. If you download the bonuses, there's some other options in there that are other things that aren't margarita style, but they're still beverage-ish. So enjoy those. And then, of course, there's other free things in that bonus packet. The bonus packet will include the full color pattern of this whole class, and it'll also include a couple extra blocks and different techniques you can do to use your finished project. Because that's important too. You've got this class, you kind of understand it now. Okay, one and done, right? No, you've got all those little squares. I know you have leftover squares. You could do another one and practice the technique and learn to be free. I know that's hard. I know it's hard because I'm a symmetrical kind of person. I like things lining up. This really puts me outside my comfort zone, making sure there's not a side touching. You need to just relax and enjoy the process. And you've created art. And that's awesome. That's awesome, I think. So again, thank you so much for joining me in the Margarita Mosaic class here at the Conquering Your Scraps Summit for 2024. You can reach me if you have any questions about this class at hello@justbeachystudio.com, or you can visit my website and see what's going on in my life and be a part of our community. So thank you again so much. And remember, stay just beachy.